Hi poetry lovers, welcome to my channel Bella Poetry Presents. My name is Bella and I love beautiful poetry. In our 7th segment of the 3rd series, The Best Russian Poets of the Silver Age, we will discuss a short life but very eventful life and very interesting one of another wonderful Russian poet of the Silver Age, Sergey Esenin. Sergey Esenin was born on October 3rd, 1895, in the village of Konstantinova, today renamed Yesenino, in the Ryazan region of Russia. He was born into a peasant simple family. Sergey Esenin was sent early on to live with his grandparents. He began to write poetry at the age of 9. A literary prodigy, in 1912 he moved to Moscow, where he supported himself by working as a proofreader in a printing company. The following year, he enrolled in Moscow State University as an external student, studying there for a year and a half. His early poetry was inspired by Russian folklore. He belonged to a group that included Ivan Surikov, a 19th century Russian peasant and poet. In 1915, he moved to St. Petersburg, where he became acquainted with the fellow poets Alexander Blok, Sergei Gorodetsky, Nikolai Kluyev, and Andrei Bely. It was in St. Petersburg that he became well known in literary circles. Alexander Blok was especially helpful in promoting Esenin's early career as a poet. Esenin said that Bely gave him the meaning of form, while Blok taught him lyricism. In 1915, Sergey Esenin published his first book of poems titled Radunitsa, soon followed by Ritual for the Dead that was published in 1916. Through his collection of poignant poetry about love and the simple life, he became one of the most popular poets of the day. Blessed with good looks and a romantic personality, Esenin fell in love frequently, and over a very short period of time, he was married 5 times. His first marriage was in 1913. He married a co-worker from the publishing house by the name of Anna, with whom he had one son, Yuri. During the Stalinist purges, Yuri Esenin was arrested, and unfortunately he died in 1937 at a Gulag labor camp. Esenin became particularly close to Kluyev, leading some to speculate that the two had a homosexual relationship. For the next 2 years, they were a team, living together most of the time. Collections of his poetry usually include his 3 love letters to Kluyev, without specifying to whom they were written. Again, it's not a fact, but just a speculation. In 1916-1917, Sergey Esenin was drafted into military duty. But soon after the Russian Revolution of 1917, Russia exited World War I. They believed that the revolution would bring a better life. So briefly, Esenin kind of wanted a better life for his people, for the peasants from the families that he came from. And so he supported the revolution. But soon, just like other poets of the Silver Age, he became greatly disillusioned. And he even criticized the Bolshevik rule in such poems as "The Stern October Had Deceived Me." In August 1917, Esenin married for the second time to the actress Zinaida Reich. With her, he had a daughter, Tatiana, and a son, Konstantin. In September of 1918, he founded his own publishing house that had a very long name. It was called Trudovaya Artselь Hudожников Slova. In translation, the Moscow Labor Company of the Artists of the Word. In the fall of 1921, while visiting the studio of painter Alexei Yakovlev, he met the Paris-based American dancer Isadora Duncan. She was 17 years his senior. She knew just maybe a dozen words in Russian, and Esenin spoke no foreign languages. Maybe that's why they married so fast on May 2nd, 1922. Esenin accompanied his new celebrity wife on a tour of Europe and the United States. But at this point in his life, an addiction to alcohol had gotten out of control. He was often drunk and on drugs. He experienced violent rages, resulting in him destroying hotel rooms and causing disturbances in restaurants. This behavior received a great deal of publicity in the world's press. The marriage to Duncan lasted only a short time, and in the May of 1923, he returned to Moscow. There, he immediately became involved with actress Augusta Mikhlashevskaya and is believed to have married her in a civil ceremony, although it is known that he never obtained a divorce from Isadora Duncan. Another lover of his during this time, her name was Galina Banislavskaya. She committed suicide at his grave a year after his death. Esenin's behavior grew increasingly reckless, and the same year he had a son, Alexander, by the poet Nadezhda Volpin. Sergey Esenin never knew his son by Volpin, but Alexander Esenin Volpin grew up to become a prominent poet and activist in the Soviet Union's dissident movement of the 1960s, along with Andrei Sakharov and other dissidents. After moving to the United States, Esenin Volpin, the son of Sergey Esenin, became a prominent mathematician. The last 2 years of Sergey Esenin's life were filled with constant, erratic, and drunken behavior, but he also, during this time, created some of his most famous pieces of poetry. In the spring of 1925, a highly volatile Sergey Esenin met and married his fifth wife, Sofia Tolstaya, a granddaughter of famous 19th century Russian novelist Lev Tolstoy. She attempted to get him help, but he suffered a complete mental breakdown and was hospitalized in a mental institution for a month. After accidentally meeting Esenin in 1925, Vladimir Mayakovsky noted, "With the greatest difficulty, I recognize Esenin. With difficulty, too, I rejected his persistent demands that we go for a drink, demands accompanied by the waving of a fat bunch of banknotes. All day long, I had this depressing image before me, and in the evening, of course, I discussed it with my colleagues. What could be done with Esenin? Unfortunately, in such a situation, everyone always limits oneself just to talk." 2 days after his release for Christmas, Esenin allegedly cut his wrists and wrote farewell poem in his own blood. The following day, he hanged himself from the heating pipes on the ceiling of his room in the Hotel Angleterre. He died at the age of 30. Some believe that the suicide was staged and it actually the government agents who killed him, but there is no proof for this theory. Although Esenin was one of Russia's popular poets and had been given an elaborate funeral by the state, most of his writings were banned by the Kremlin during the reign of Joseph Stalin and Nikita Khrushchev. Only in 1966 were most of his works republished. Today, Sergey Esenin's poems are still being memorized by school children, and many have been set to music and recorded as popular songs. The early death, unsympathetic views by some of the literary elite, adoration by ordinary people, sensational behavior, all contributed to the enduring and near mythical popular image of the Russian poet. Sergey Esenin is buried in Moscow's Vaganovskaya Cemetery. His grave is marked by a white marble sculpture. And now, as always, I will read to you a couple of his famous poems. The first poem is called Goodbye, My Friend, Goodbye. And I'll read it in Russian and in English. It was written in 1925. It was called basically like his farewell poem. До свидания, друг мой, до свидания. Милый мой, ты у меня в груди. Предназначенное расставание обещает встречу впереди. До свидания, друг мой, без руки, без слова, не грусти и не печаль бровей. В этой жизни умирать не ново, но и жить, конечно, не новей. And here is an English translation, obviously. It's very difficult to show the lyricism and the beauty of his poetry. So the translation really doesn't show it to the full extent, but I will read it to you so you'll know what the poem is about. Goodbye, my friend, goodbye. My dear one, you're inside my chest. This predestined parting promises a reunion ahead. Goodbye, my friend, without a handshake, without a word. Do not get sad or show sorrows with your eyebrows. Dying is nothing new in this life, but living, of course, isn't novel either. And one of his most beautiful poems, which I love, is called Klon Ty moja pavshe. It was written also in 1925. Oh, my dear maple. And I can sing to you, it's actually a popular song. So I'll try to sing the first two verses and then I'll continue reciting. Klon ty moja pavši, klon заледенелый, что стоишь нагнувшись под метелью белой. Или что увидел, или что услышал, словно за деревню погулять ты вышел. И как пьяный сторож, выйдя на дорогу, утонул в сугробе, приморозил ногу. Ах, и сам я нынче, что это стал нестойкий, не дойду до дома с дружеской попойки. Там вон встретил вербу, там сосну приметил, распевал им песни под метель о лете. Сам себе казался я таким же кленом, только не опавшим, а вовсю зеленым. И, утратив скромность, одуревши в доску, как жену чужую, обнимал березку. Beautiful poem. And now, in English. Oh, my dear maple, maple that iced over, why do you stand bent down under white snow cover? Either you've seen something or you've heard a wind talk, as if from the village you went for a sleepwalk. Like a drunken watchman stopping on the roadway, you drowned in a snowdrift, froze your foot on a cold day. And I myself now have become unstable, can't make my way back home from a friendly bender. There I met a willow, there a pine I noticed, songs about summer I sang during snowstorm. I appeared to myself just like this red maple, only not isolated one, but as green as apple. Having lost my coyness, having grown so stupid, as a someone else's wife, I hugged a birch tree like Cupid. And with this poem, we come to the end to our segment number 7 about Sergey Esenin. Thank you so much for joining us. In our next segment, the last in this series, we will discuss the life of a wonderful Russian poetess. She actually doesn't so much belongs to Silver Age poets. She was born maybe 20 years later, but I still wanted to bring her story and poetry to your attention. Her name is Veronika Tushnova, so please join us. Don't forget to like and to subscribe. Your support is extremely important to us. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.